I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for being with us. We're going to start this hour with the severe storm sweeping across the country. Overnight, emergency crews in central North Carolina carried out more swift water rescues after another round of flash flooding trapped people in their homes and cars. And then in our nation's capital, a powerful storm triggered a tornado warning, forcing students at the American University to shelter in place.
In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has asked for a special session of the state's legislature to talk about the response to the flash flooding that has killed more than 100 people in the Lone Star State. All this as communities out west start to clean up from deadly floods there. This morning, we're hearing firsthand what it was like when a river in New Mexico rose nearly 19 feet in just a matter of minutes. One father was out trying to rescue his neighbors when he got a frantic call from his young children.
They said that the bed was floating, and so they got on the mattress of the bed that was floating up, and they were holding on to the ceiling fan. There's only, maybe 2 foot before they were out of room and they would have drowned.
Now these communities are starting the long process of cleaning up and trying to rebuild their lives. NBC News meteorologist Michelle Grossman is standing by, but we begin with Aaron McLaughlin in Newark.
Hey there, the weather has been relentless. Overnight, flights were disrupted in the New York area due to that storm, part of a broader pattern that we've been seeing play out all week at the nation's airports. More than 27,000 flight disruptions and 2,600 cancellations and counting. And it was another night of relentless rain from the south to the northeast. In North Carolina overnight, flash flooding hit the Durham area. Roads and cars submerged. Further up the East Coast, there was a torrential downpour late Tuesday in the nation's capital, sending water cascading through the streets and floods in nearby Virginia. Meanwhile, the Southwest is still reeling from intense flooding from Texas to Ruidoso, New Mexico, where officials say a Fort Bliss soldier and his spouse are in the hospital with serious injuries. Their children, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl, were killed in flash floods. Now, when it comes to all of this flooding and rain that we have been seeing, scientists are pointing to climate change. They say that because the Earth's atmosphere is warmer, it holds more water, triggering all this rainfall and wreaking havoc on the nation's airports. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. Let's get a closer look at these severe summer storms with your Morning News Now weather.
Yeah, Michelle Grossman is here in studio with us tracking it all. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, guys. And just adding on to what Aaron said, yes, we have a warming climate which holds more water, unleashes more rainfall as those storms move through, but also the storms are slowing down. So what happens is sort of a traffic jam in the atmosphere where things move a little bit slower. The jet stream really moves things along, but in this changing climate, things are moving slower. They're sitting over the same area, and that's why we're getting those heavy downpours really over the same spots. So as we look for today, we're looking at another day with the potential for more flash flooding, high rainfall rates with any storms that pop up in the southeast. This is our future cast. So notice all these brighter colors. That's where we're anticipating storms to pop up. It's really difficult to pinpoint where storms will pop up in this sort of setup, but still you need to be vigilant. Watch out for any of these storms that may spark because they will have heavy downpours. It's all due to the stationary front. The jet stream is lifted very high to the north, so it's allowing this hot air in and all this humid air, and that's adding to the moisture in the atmosphere. Then we're going to look towards the central plains in the afternoon and evening hours to the nighttime hours. Once that daytime heating gets going and we really spark those storms, we could see severe weather there. Friday, more storms from the Rockies to the Midwest, looking at the chance for more localized flash flooding. So this is a story that we will certainly watch tomorrow and also today. We've watched it the past few days. It seems like day after day, we're getting those flooding events. Severe weather threat mainly in the central plains today, but notice the green throughout New England, the Northeast, down to parts of the Carolinas. The Carolinas is the last place that needs any more rainfall. We had water rescues yesterday overnight in North Carolina, so something we're concerned about today. In terms of that threat, though, for severe storms, Omaha to McCook down to Dodge City, could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour, damaging hail, a couple tornadoes, and of course, that heavy rainfall. Then as we go throughout tomorrow, sort of in the same spot where we're looking at the chance for severe weather, 7 million at risk on Friday from Des Moines to Kansas City. But notice all that green. We are looking at the chance for pretty much everywhere from the Rockies into the eastern part of the nation under the gun for more severe storms. Flood watches, of course, 14 million people noticed in the Carolinas in that flood watch because they are so saturated already. And that also does include New England.
I'm waiting for the part where you say, but relief is on the way, ... no time soon.
No time soon. And that's a problem. Humidity is staying in place, too. I know. I wish we could say that.
All right, Michelle, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, utility crews and local officials are assessing the damage in New Mexico after monsoon rains triggered flash flooding there. It was in an area previously devastated by wildfires around the remote town of Ruidoso. It's south of Albuquerque. At least 3 people were killed, including the 2 young children of a soldier, as you heard. He was on leave from Fort Bliss. Dozens of others had to be rescued from rushing water. As of yesterday, at least 3 people are still missing. Video captured this home you're going to see here smashing into trees as it was swept downriver. As many as 50 homes were damaged. At a press conference yesterday, Mayor Lynn Crawford said several inches of rain dropped in just minutes, triggering this historic river surge.
In the Rio Ruidoso crested at a historical high of 20 feet. Last year during the historic flood, it was over 15 feet, so we're 5 feet over last year. This represents truly unprecedented flooding in our community. What we were told is that we received 3.5 inches of rain on the South Fork burn scar in about a 90-minute period. That water came directly into our community and impacted the community head-on. So we said from last year during the fires and the subsequent floods that this is a 3 to 5 year process and could possibly be longer.
Wildfires burned more than 17,000 acres near this town of Ruidoso that was just last year. And the mayor there said it could be days before services like water and power are restored in some areas.
Just next door in Texas, more than 170 people are still missing. At least 100 are dead after the catastrophic July 4th flooding there. As
the number of deaths continues to rise, officials are facing tough questions about whether enough was done to warn people to get to higher ground. Yesterday, Governor Greg Abbott said lawmakers will address the flood response in a special session. It's going to be on July 21st. That includes proposed improvements to early flood warning systems, emergency communications, and relief funding for the recovery. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has more.
From high above a heartbroken hill country to the depths of its muddy, debris-filled waters, crews battling to find the more than 173 people still declared missing.
As crews dig through seemingly endless piles of debris, heartbreaking details are emerging. One of the first people upon this site sharing when they walked up, cell phones were still ringing beneath the rubble.
The death toll now at least 119 lives. Today, Braxton Jarman's high school confirmed the rising sophomore died in the catastrophic flooding. His stepmother and sister are still missing. And the family of 8-year-old Mary Kate Jacoby said she's entered the gates of heaven, calling her tiny but mighty and full of love. She was attending Camp Mystic, where these new images capture a telling scene. Campers' clothes and trunks spread outside a cabin as cadaver dogs carried out their grim work nearby. Today, amid questions about whether more should have been done to warn people about the dangerous rising waters, local officials said they are laser focused on search efforts.
You know, we're not running, we're not going to hide from everything. That's going to be checked into at a later time. I wish I could tell you that time. I don't know that time.
But records from a county meeting in 2016 show a former commissioner said the flood warning system was, quite simply, pretty antiquated, calling it marginal at the best.
Records show that the concept of flood warnings have been discussed at least 24 times by the county. What's the biggest reason that these systems have not gone into place at this point?
You know, Morgan, you and I grew up here. And I wasn't in office during those discussions. And frankly, I'm more focused on the future than the past.
Back in the flood zone.
When you first laid eyes on this one, what stood out?
It was the massive amounts of water.
Disaster specialist Larry Miner says his teams have seen the unthinkable. Cadaver dogs leading those on horseback to remote river areas where heartbreaking discoveries have yet to slow down.
We'll stay until we get it done. Yeah. And we want them to have closure.
And for the families of those who don't know what to think right now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of loss. I feel for them. We're praying for them.
As the search efforts continue, they really have a monumental task ahead. The Guadalupe River from its headwaters runs 22 miles through Kerr County before continuing to the Gulf of Mexico. But within this area,
We are talking about some incredibly rural, remote areas, not to mention that crews once in the river still have to navigate through debris. This flood's so powerful that in some cases, portions of the riverbed itself were moved. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Morgan, thank you.
NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us now from Kerrville with the very latest. So, Aaron, what can you tell us about the search for those who are still missing there?
Well, Joe, I think Morgan really laid out how complex the search effort is here. We were told by officials that there are about 2,100 first responders on the ground across central Texas along the Guadalupe River now. That includes, obviously, folks from the Texas Game and Inland Fisheries, folks from the Texas State Police, but they've also brought in urban search and rescue teams. You may have seen in some of the footage there people wearing those dark-colored helmets. They've been in these areas where we're told there is still this deep impact search effort going on, and essentially that means so much debris came downstream in the course of this flooding that now they've been able to move stuff that's sort of on the top layer. If you look at all the bulldozers and the other heavy equipment that have been along the river banks for the last several days now, they're very carefully able to get into the deeper levels of the debris after having removed some of the top layers, and that's going to allow them to search for many of those people who are still missing. You heard the numbers here. The death toll standing now at about 120, and there's still more than 170 people missing, most of them here in Kerr County, but also in some of the nearby counties that were impacted by the flooding. And we're told that that search effort is going to continue for as long as it takes to find everybody who's missing here, Joe.
And Aaron, while the community searches, it's also honoring the victims. What can you tell us about how the community is coming together to do that?
You know, we have seen some really beautiful tributes happen here over the last couple of days. There was a vigil held last night. There were a couple held in San Antonio and in Houston and Dallas and other places. Some of them aimed at just remembering the young women from Camp Mystic, the little girls from Camp Mystic who lost their lives, but also all the other people who've lost their lives and people who are still missing. A lot of prayers, a lot of singing. And then the other part of this, Joe, I think, is that we've seen so many people here trying to help. People coming from out of state to help sort donated clothing, to prepare hygiene packets. Complete strangers going into homes that have been destroyed by the flooding to help clean up, to take out the drywall. We talked to a woman yesterday who came from a nearby town into Kerrville here because she knew people here simply needed help. She helped an elderly couple clear out their kitchen after their home had about maybe 3 feet of water in it. I want you to hear part of the exchange I had with her. What's driving you to help?
To help, like, this couple here. They're in their late 80s. They have a daughter that is disabled. I just want to help people. I mean, how would they get beyond water in their cabinets? And it's just, everybody needs help.
And she became emotional talking about the fact that she realizes so many people need so much help and will need help for many weeks and potentially months to come, Joe. We know that that FEMA and the Small Business Administration are opening their disaster response center for people to go to get help from the federal government. That's opening today here in Kerrville.
Yeah, months and probably even years. Aaron Gilchrist reporting from Kerrville. Aaron, thank you so much. President Trump continues to warn of higher tariffs on trade partners if deals are not reached by the end of the month. The president just announced a 50% tariff on goods from Brazil, which could potentially lead to higher costs for consumers. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
The new trade ultimatums that could impact the price you pay for imports. President Trump sending new letters slapping certain countries with higher tariffs if they don't reach trade deals with the U.S. by August 1st. Among them, a 20% tariff on goods from the Philippines and a 30% tax on imports from Iraq.
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated over the years.
The president also announcing a 50% tariff on goods from Brazil, in part over its prosecution of its former president. In the 3 months since President Trump declared Liberation Day, the White House has announced partial trade frameworks with the UK, Vietnam, and China, but no others so far. The president says the tariffs have already been worth it, and inflation has remained steady.
We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, money that we've never seen before.
Some American companies tell us the president's tariffs have already leveled the playing field.
We find it offensive that there are Chinese manufacturers, in my opinion, dumping products in this country at prices below our cost to make them here in this country.
Brian Gantz's company manufactures non-lethal self-defense products in Indiana.
We're hiring a lot more people in the U.S. as a result of this.
But other businesses say the impact has been devastating.
Well, the uncertainty is really the biggest problem.
Heather Fritchie runs a packaging company in Pennsylvania and says it's not so simple to stop importing products from China.
The problem is that the last, 30 or 40 years have seen the decrease in the plants that we have and the machinery we have and the skilled labor that we have.
That was Gabe Gutierrez reporting. As for the tariff threat on Brazil, last year that country was the 18th largest source of imports of U.S. goods with more than $42 billion worth of imports. Let's continue the conversation. Bring in Caleb Silver, editor-in-chief for Investopedia. Caleb, good to have you with us. So we just heard in Gabe's piece there, Brazil facing a 50% tariff jump, largely rooted not so much in economics, but in politics. For its part, the president of Brazil says it's going to respond with reciprocity. What should we know about this trade relationship?
Yeah, it's not that big of a trade relationship. It's about $17 billion. And actually, there's a trade surplus with Brazil that the United States enjoys. But it's the mineral oils that we import from Brazil, coffee that we import from Brazil. They're also a big producer of meat and other products like that. But this is a personal attack more than a trade attack. And the president specified that in the letter he did send to the Brazilian president. He said not only because of the attacks on Bolsonaro, the former president there, but also the attacks on digital trade here in the United States. So hard to know if this is really economics or personal. I think more personal in this case. But yet another country on the list, several countries now, as Gabe mentioned, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, Japan, North Korea, all receiving letters with new tariff numbers.
Caleb, I want to ask about something specific. You actually touched on this yesterday with us, but now we've got some more information about the gains here. This is this 50% tariff that's being proposed on copper. How could that impact the economy? Why is that an important thing to keep our eyes on?
Yeah, copper is the third most used of the metals, and we use it basically every single enterprise in industrial manufacturing. And the president actually said this, too, in the letter, in the investigation, that we use it for lithium batteries. We use it for manufacturing weapons, for ammunition, for data centers, for semiconductors. This is a key component in U.S. manufacturing and in global manufacturing. We do mine it here in the Southwest, but we get most of it from countries like Chile. But this is something that could reverberate throughout the supply chain because we use it for nearly everything. And the Department of Defense uses it. It's the second most component used in the Department of Defense.
We've been discussing how so much of this uncertainty is sort of baked into Wall Street right now. What have we been seeing this week? What do we expect today?
Yeah, choppiness in the stock market. We were at record highs going into the July 4th holiday. We've kind of bounced around since then, but we're actually seeing good results from companies. We heard this morning from Delta Airlines that there's more people traveling and they have better bookings now going into the future. They reinstated their forecast. That stock is jumping this morning. The rest of the market is a little depressed because of the amplification of all these tariff announcements. So we're dancing around record highs. There's going to be volatility. Probably expect that through August 1st and beyond. This is the new normal.
Caleb Silver, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, let's stay in Washington. Former President Biden's longtime doctor refused to answer questions about Mr. Biden's health during a closed-door interview with House Republicans yesterday. He invoked the Fifth Amendment as the GOP continues to press for answers about the former president's medical and mental fitness while in office. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell has the details.
The kind of house call that a former White House physician did not want to make. Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who treated former President Biden for at least 16 years, asserted his Fifth Amendment right and declined to give testimony after he was subpoenaed by House Republicans investigating Mr. Biden's medical and mental fitness while in office.
Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
This is unprecedented, and I think that this adds more fuel to the fire that there was a cover-up.
But a lawyer for O'Connor insists the doctor could not testify without risking his medical license, writing, Dr. O'Connor will not violate his oath of confidentiality for any of his patients, including President Biden. The 82-year-old former president is now being treated for an aggressive prostate cancer.
I'm feeling good.
Recent books allege episodes of mental decline while he was president, like not recalling the names of longtime aides. The former president has disputed that. Democrat Jasmine Crockett defended Biden's mental fitness.
I did have an opportunity to interact with the president. I never had a concern.
Our thanks to Kelly O'Donnell for that report. Dr. O'Connor is among several close Biden aides being called to testify as Republicans question whether Biden was in command during his presidency.
In Los Angeles, more than 30 workers were rescued after being trapped when a tunnel collapsed. The crews had been building a massive water pipe as part of a wastewater management project. Some workers climbed over debris to escape the area before they were pulled to safety in a cage by a crane. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in Los Angeles with more on this dramatic scene. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, those 31 workers are feeling very lucky this morning. This all happened at an underground excavation site. It was a tunnel that was being constructed as part of a municipal project, and it collapsed about 5 to 6 miles away from the entrance, triggering a massive emergency response.
Everyone has been accounted for.
Overnight, a miraculous rescue. Workers trapped in a tunnel on an industrial site just outside of downtown Los Angeles, escaping unharmed.
Everyone seems to be doing fine.
News choppers flying over the scene, capturing the moments workers emerged from underground. 27 workers were trapped 400 feet below ground for about an hour.
Here's some more guys coming out right now.
4 others went inside the tunnel after the collapse to help in the rescue efforts. All 31 men rescued safely and without significant injuries.
Tonight, we were lucky.
Authorities say the incident happened just before 8 p.m. local time. Workers were operating a tunnel boring machine used for excavation when the structure partially collapsed, causing loose dirt to fall in a pile more than 15 feet high.
What we have is approximately 18 to 28 personnel in a boring hole. It is collapsed.
There was a location that squeezed the tunnel and forced it to partially collapse.
A massive rescue effort organized. At least 100 first responders were on scene.
The tunnel lining failed approximately 5 to 6 miles in. The workers had to climb through debris. They had to make themselves out through, and then rescuers actually came to them to assist them out.
Workers were brought above ground in small groups.
You see this crane here and then that yellow basket at the end of it? It is bringing out these trapped miners. It's about 8 people at a time. That's what they can fit.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass saying she spoke to some of the workers who told her they're feeling relieved and lucky to be alive.
I was so concerned that we were going to find tragedy. Instead, what we found was victory.
And the authorities are saying that those workers had to scramble to climb over the piles of debris, again, some 15 feet high, to then reach the rescuers who were then able to bring them to safety. Just a harrowing ordeal. Could have been much worse. Very, very lucky rescue this morning, Joe.
No kidding. Glad everyone made it out okay. Liz, thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.